Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and it just didn't seem as fun to use. Also, another idea that seemed promising, but actually wasn't, was that Google Plus initially stopped brands and businesses creating their own Google Plus accounts in order to ensure all the content was from individual people instead. Again, interesting idea, but in reality, it just meant way less content, further adding to Google Plus's ghost town reputation. Internally at Google, given the huge amounts of time, money, and staff put into Google Plus, it even seems like some within the company resented it, especially since some of the teams would have been forced to compromise their own service. For example, I doubt the team working on YouTube necessarily wanted to integrate Google Plus. However, since a huge amount of the employee annual bonus depended on whether Google Plus hit its user targets, employees ended up pushing the service on people, including friends and family, instead of prioritizing user experience first. Meanwhile, as the pressure and negativity around Google Plus mounted, Vic and Dotra, who'd been leading the project, grew more and more stressed, often staying up all night to work on the platform and pushing the team to their limits. But after a reported rift between Vic and other senior Google members, in 2014, Vic and Dotra left the company, essentially abandoning his own project. And just to add insult to injury for Google, remember how one of the very first people to sign up for Google Plus was Mark Zuckerberg? Well, Zuckerberg ended up getting more followers on Google Plus than Google's own CEO at the time, Larry Page. But perhaps the final nail in the coffin was when Google Plus faced a major security breach that exposed the personal data of over 50 million users. The breach was caused by a bug in the platform's API that allowed third-party apps to access private user data without permission. Google Plus were accused of initially trying to cover up the breach, and so there was even more criticism when it was finally revealed what happened. Finally, in October 2018, a class action lawsuit was filed against Google and parent company Alphabet due to Google Plus account data being exposed as a result of this bug. Ultimately, there were clearly multiple different reasons Google Plus wasn't working out. The fact Google Plus didn't launch until 2011, a full 7 years after Facebook and 5 years after Twitter, always meant it had an uphill battle. And whilst Google Plus did launch the same year as Snapchat, Snap offered something new, short, mobile-focused, self-destructing media, whereas Google Plus essentially tried to recreate social networks that already existed. Honestly, Google Plus probably wasn't as bad as it's now remembered as, but early mistakes meant the narrative and perception was always against Google Plus. And thus, in October 2018, Google announced that Plus would be permanently shut down for good. After so much initial hype and the hundreds of millions of dollars Google spent building it, it went down in history as Google's biggest failure. Of course, with hindsight, it's easy to see the issues, but researching this did lead me to some funny predictions people made at the time. Many experts genuinely thought Google Plus would dominate. And my favorite prediction was this comment from 10 years ago that in just 2 lines said Apple was on the decline and that Google Plus will come through to dominate eventually, just like Windows Phone. However, the story of Google's social network battle wasn't quite over just yet. By 2019, Google Plus was officially shut down to consumers, and anything you had on Google Plus was transferred to the relevant standalone application. Like photos you had on Google Plus were moved to a standalone product called Google Photos. And in fact, several features of Google Plus, like the video Hangouts, have become separate Google services that have continued to be useful. However, following the closure of Google Plus, former Google employee Morgan Knutson posted a brutal series of tweets, saying, "Now that Google Plus has been shuttered, I should air my dirty laundry on how awful the project and exec team was. I'm still pissed about the bait and switch they pulled by telling me I'd be working on Chrome, then putting me on this godforsaken piece of ass on day one." According to Knudsen, every team worked separately on their own part of the project, and there was a major lack of unity or grand vision. Interestingly though, shortly after Google Plus was shut down, Google once again attempted to launch a social network. This time a service called Shoelace, which I'm willing to bet most people have never even heard of. The idea with this was to go for a much more low-key approach, and instead of trying to do everything all at once like they'd done with Plus, Shoelace would simply focus on connecting people to local things happening in their own city. So maybe this would finally be Google's social network success. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The pandemic made it very hard for a new social app like this to take off at all, and the service survived less than a year. Headlines popped up like, "Google is shutting down Shoelace, the social app you've probably never heard of." So this was yet another social failure for Google. It's strange, as it seems Google are masters at creating utilities and tools and solving complex problems. Honestly, Google products and services have had a massively positive effect on my life overall, and I'm sure it's the same for many of you watching. But with the exception of YouTube, which they acquired, the more social, community-driven apps always seem to have been their weakness. And perhaps part of the problem is simply Google's culture, where their prevailing wisdom is to quickly kill projects that aren't working and start over. And this works great with many things, but not with social networks, where every reboot you lose any existing network effects and start from scratch all over again. I also think Google's focus on features like circles illustrates the way Google thinks about things. Their assumption was that Google Plus users would enjoy spending time organizing their information and setting up everything exactly how they wanted it. And indeed, many tech-minded people did actually prefer Google Plus and the additional control it gave them. But the general public didn't want to spend their time on that organizational setup stuff. They just wanted the platform to work right away. Generally, people prefer simplicity. Just look at more recent breakout apps like TikTok. You don't even have to search for anything. It just learns what you like and shows it to you. Whereas Google Plus had much more of a learning curve. For example, another core feature of Google Plus was Sparks, that required you to actively search for things you were interested in and do the work yourself. Again, it gave you more control, it just wasn't what the average social network user wanted. And so now we know how Google lost, let's find out why MySpace lost. Because MySpace was hugely popular and had a massive lead over Facebook, but there was a key reason it all fell apart. Just click this video to find out what that was. I'll see you there. Cheers.